I'm proud to be a part of this because I maintain and I will not retreat from this position. The matter of homelessness is the defining moral issue of our time. And so we welcome all three of our respective panelists. The extent to which poverty assaulted the dignity of human life. I want to maintain that the raw edge of poverty is homelessness. To the extent that that's the case, we are contextually aligned tonight. How about a little straight talk and leaning in? Anybody object? If you do, you didn't come to the right meeting. So Reba, tell us, are you adequately leaning into and learning from the African American experience in terms of fellow Angelenos with lived experience? How do we translate that? How do we further draw upon that lived experience and expertise? The larger question is, to what extent is the disproportionality, and this will be something that each of you can reflect on, to what extent is the disproportionality of African Americans experiencing homelessness being centered such that the question of race is taken seriously? Reba, Seth,
Well, let me
yeah,
begin by saying that that's a loaded question.
yeah,
So respectfully, not yet. And we've created space for storytelling, uh, but storytelling is not the same as power. And we, as people with lived experience, are invited to listening sessions, advisory groups, and panels, but the real decisions are still being made by in executive spaces and policy, budget hearings, philanthropy, um, academics, institutions, government leaderships, where those of us with lived experience are still underrepresented or absent many times. So if we're serious about equity and lived experience, it must move beyond council table. It must sit at tables where priorities are being set, resources are allocated, and contracts are awarded. Policies are being drafted, and outcomes are measured. And this isn't just about the homelessness system. It's about housing. It's about public health. It's about education, workforce development, criminal justice, uh, faith institutions, all systems that are leading spaces. So when I think about the question overall, it's shifting power and what it actually looks like. So following the money, finding Black-led, uh, cultural, culturally rooted organizations that are at scale with multi-year support, not short-term pilot dollars. Too oftentimes, it's always about just something that is temporary. We have to stop. Uh, we have to stop hiding from the and use real language. Name anti-black racism directly. Build strategies that reduce the black homelessness and not just overall numbers. If we're going to get real about what this discussion is about, use influence to remove those barriers. streamline procurement and reduce compliance burdens that
Are you saying that isn't happening? And
I'm saying that it's not happening.
all right, you're
I'm
certain.
clearly saying that it is not happening.
So then, the extent to which, or is it happening less now than it was before? Is there less attention being focused on race, racism, systemic racism? Um, Dr. Duna, Dr. Seth, what are you thinking about that, Dr. Pickens? And just
And
jump,
tell the truth. And tell
yeah,
the truth.
and shame the devil. Come on in here and do what you need to do.
I'll jump in real quick. I mean, I do think that there has been more conversation, even, and I mean, we all know about the Black people experiencing homelessness and the ad hoc committee and these things. So these
Yeah.
are things that we would not have seen a generation or two ago. I think just to really get to it, from my take, all of that is good and helpful. Then at the same time, so if we look at the arc of this and we talk about the systemic racism, this is baked in pre-1776. It's in the blueprints. So it's in the building. And even as you add it on, so we understand that. So then that being the case, to ask others for something, like, hey, you're racist against us, stop it, give us more of something. I mean, and it has worked somewhat, but it only take us so far. And then to understand that history of Black people in America is to understand that some of the brightest spots, the most wealth, the strongest families came out of necessity in segregation. So I'm not, pushing for segregation, but I am saying that a lot of times the solution is not in anyone else's hands except ours. So yes, major white Jewish philanthropies give us more. Yes, city, county, state, privilege us in some ways, but also, what can we do, or what have we done? So that's a conversation around capacity building. That's a conversation around starting younger with youth, because at the rate homelessness is going now, and hate to say that, but the 10-year-old now, 20 years from now, God forbid, hopefully we're doing something about this, but so there's something to be said for starting younger, because this disparity is not just a housing crisis. I mean, to understand all this, you could look at and basically see, white and Asian, and then Hispanic, and then at the bottom, Black. That is housing, homelessness, that is mortgages, that is arrest rates, that is graduation rates, that is GPA, that is who gets suspended, that is who gets, searched when they get pulled over. White and Asian, not so much. Hispanic, a little worse, and then Black. So that's the systemic thing. So to just, all right, since supervisor is encouraging me to,
Tell the truth.
pull it a little bit here, really quick. I gotta say this, in the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
The beast that they are fighting, then this is basically good versus evil. The beast, the mark of the beast, right? It has 7 heads. So, and one of the heads has a fatal wound that had healed. So 7 heads. And so even if you cut one of the heads off, there's a la homelessness, or let's solve poverty, or let's solve homelessness. You're just cutting one of those heads off. The other 6 heads are still doing their thing. And as a matter of fact, the other 6 heads will give life back to that 7th head. So it's a widespread issue. And I think the solution has got to start with us. And not us asking others, but us asking ourselves.
A provocative point, Dr. Seth Pickens. I want to follow up with you on that after Dr. Orduna weighs in. Dr. Orduna, jump in and take it wherever you want to go.
I was going to say, I forgot the original question. So I'm going to
Yeah.
go back. Last night, Dr. Ryan Smith from St. Joseph Center
Yeah.
held the Black Futures event, like his second annual. And one stat, and I forgot who said it, was that today it would take Black folks 218 years to catch up in wealth to the average white household today in 2026. And that just really, when we talk about structural and Reba, you were on point when you talked about we get programs, we don't get system change, we don't get transformative change. And so what came to me as all of you were talking, I was trying to stay focused on your question, Supervisor. For me, I think there was this push, when we did the Black people experiencing homelessness, the initial back in 2017 and 2018, and it was, documenting systemic racism and the impact on disparities and bringing that into question. But like so much, the conversation then got co-opted. And I start hearing people now, talking about it and talking about equity, but the behaviors aren't changing that are needed. Like those funding decisions aren't changing, the people in representative positions or leadership positions aren't changing. There's like, we're just recycling a cohort of folks. So there aren't new ideas that are happening. I see some movement in youth, but at the same time, I almost see now younger advocates being pivot against advocates that have been in this work and doing it for a long time. I don't see people bringing it together. It's almost like, well, we need to change faces. So let's just go to the transition age youth population. But again, that's just creating another divide. It's like moving paper from side to side. It's not actually bringing foundational change. And I haven't seen that risk taking since your leadership, to be honest with you. And so where do we then pivot as a community? I think some of us are tired, or not tired, but
Yeah.
fatigued in the sense that we keep trying it. Even, Trump is going to do what Trump does. We know that. I didn't even have to read 2025, and you could see where he was going to go. But as a community, somehow like the spaces that we used to maybe meet in have been diluted. And I think there's so much information coming at folks that's adding to the fatigue. And then you feel like you're having the same conversation over and over again. So I don't think I answered your question, but I guess I'm at a point of frustration because while I hear more people reference Black people experiencing homelessness, which is, I always tell people, first time I saw Black folks that were unhoused, but the term homeless associated with Black folks was in W.B. Du Bois' Souls of Black Folks. That was written in 1907, and he was talking about post-Reconstruction when people were coming into the Union set up camps looking for food and shelter, and they're like, "What are we supposed to do with these folks? Are we supposed to feed and shelter them?" So this is, like you said, this is centuries old. So we know the issue and the solutions. I think we have them, but to Seth's point, how do we get our billionaires to invest in housing? How do we get them to, what are how we have enough resources and there's people, how do we begin to take care of our own? We seem to do it when we don't have money, but on a large scale, when we start getting money and separating out, we just get diluted.
No
I want
need
to
to be
jump in. I'm sorry. I want to jump in on
jump in here. Take over.
where you talked about the church. I don't want to take over, but don't give me permission, please.
It's insurrection.
I'm getting a little comfortable here.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I think that the question that you had raised was critically important because, for me, it's 21 years of being unhoused, but then there's that 27 years in which I have not been. And so if you calculate those numbers, I'm going to take you back to Second Baptist Church, to the Henderson House. I'm going to take you to a place where we came in and there were rules, regulations, guidelines, and procedures, no matter what. Nobody was pushing Jesus. They were Christ-like in their actions. And you had to grow up to see that later on at some point. But the point I want to make here is that the faith-based community was all we had when I was unhoused. Those were the steps in which we laid on. Those were the doors in which we knocked on, but those doors answered. And when those doors answered, they answered to a call of not just bringing you in to give you warmth in a meal. There were those rules, regulations, those guidelines, those procedures. There was structure. And one of the things that I needed most in my life to regain was structure in my life. Now, on the flip side of that, if you take it up to right now, we're looking at a mass of people. These numbers weren't like this during that particular time, right? It just wasn't. And so when we're asking the faith base to do something after we have spent millions and billions of dollars and denied them, the churches have been denied, in my opinion, to be a part of the solution.